The devil wants you to fail and to suffer. And even if you don't believe in the devil, well, I mean, for all practical intents and purposes, you can imagine that he does. And sometimes just putting a entity on the forces of chaos and darkness in your life can be a powerful psychological trick. Let's just assume that he exists, okay? And if the devil really does want you to fail and suffer, then he knows that one of the best ways to do this is to get you hooked on bad habits, right? Because your habits pretty much determine the course of your life. And how does he do this? Well, one of the biggest ways that the devil works is that he uses deception, right? He's the father of lies. And there is a major lie that most guys fall for that keep them stuck in bad habits and hold them back from being the man that they are meant to be. And in this video, I want to tell you how to defeat this lie so that you can take true mastery over your habits and your life. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mark Queppet. I've been a men's coach for over a decade now, and I've helped thousands of guys master their bad habits, level up in life and do all kinds of, great stuff and that sort of thing. And what I want to be making very clear to you guys today is that there is a big shift that we can make that'll give us a tremendous amount of power when it comes to habit optimization, okay? And what it is first we got to expose the lie. And the lie is that when you're trying to change a bad habit, this battle is against yourself. The lie is that you must defeat this weak and screwed up part of you that is hooked on the bad habit. And this is something that I've seen constantly. Guys, maybe they're trying to quit porn or smoking marijuana or stop scrolling or, just be more productive. And they feel this resistant part of them, right? They feel this part that wants to do the less ideal thing and it keeps pushing against them. And they feel like, that's my enemy. That's the part of me that I need to go to war with and defeat. Problem is that when you go to war against yourself, even if you win, you lose because it's you on the other side of the table. And typically what happens then is when you're fighting against yourself, you've got this split mind where you've got the side that wants the bad thing and got the side that wants to quit it. And your mind just kind of pendulum swings between these, and each side will rebel against the other and they'll just take turns squashing and repressing each other. And it's kind of like a, forever war. And it never feels good. There's never peace created. There's never harmony generated. And the devil, this is exactly what he wants, right? The devil loves forever wars. And even better is if you can actually just get so fed up with this process that you don't even try to fight against the bad habit anymore. You just roll over and accept it as this is who you are now. And obviously that is a very bleak outcome. Without control over your habits, well, then that's basically no control over your life. And, things get ugly from there. So how do we fix this? Well, if we identified that fighting yourself is a lie, then we got to find the truth. And the truth is that you're not fighting a war against yourself. You're in actually like a hostage rescue situation. So what do I mean by this? Well, every bad habit that we have is a coping mechanism, right? It's a way to deal with internal pain. And all internal pain is basically like an unmet desire. There's a part inside of you that wants something. It's crying out for it in anguish. And, a bad habit is a way to just kind of turn that voice off. It's a way to numb it. It's a way to remove that acute emotional internal pain. And a lot of guys, they're not even aware necessarily of this pain. They've just gotten so autopilot with reaching for the bad habit. But, if you stop and you start paying attention to this, you start trying to, play with it, you'll realize, there's some discomfort in here that this bad habit soothes. And the reason I call it a hostage rescue situation is because basically this part of you, this hurting part of you, this unmet desire, it's like you've been neglecting it, and so it's turning to a dark side. It's saying, hey, can anyone help me? And then that's when the devil swoops in. And the devil, if we're going to be very specific about this, that's just the lies and the deceptions and the half-truths that kind of start attaching themselves to this, pain inside of you. All right, you can think of it as like, all right, you got this little inner child who's crying out for help and our conscious mind's ignoring it. And then from the shadows comes like, this terrorist who holds a knife to his throat and says, hey, you better listen to me or else, you're going to be screwed, right? And that's pretty much what happens with a bad habit is like that part of you believes that if it doesn't get its fix, if it doesn't listen to those rationalizations, then it's just going to be stuck suffering for eternity. And the reality is, unless you pay attention to it and you actually start dealing with that pain, then it's probably right. And that part would rather have a bad habit than just keep suffering. So how do we fix this? Well, we got to do a hostage rescue. And that's two things that need to occur, okay? We need to save the part that's hurting inside of us, and we need to kill the bad guy, okay? We need to eliminate it. And so there's kind of like a two-part mentality here. On one hand, we got to have like a militaristic, goal of elimination, right? Like we got to be willing to go in there and like kill the lies, all right? You can go to war with lies. You can hate lies. And so you got to find out what those lies are. What are these rationalizations that this painful part of me is using to justify the bad habit, right? And you got to learn how to talk to that part, listen to what it's saying. And if you, practice, self-talk in the way that I teach in Frontline Men, you'll very quickly come to understand how you're convincing yourself, that it's okay for you to do whatever it is that you're trying to actually quit. So you got to dismantle those things. You got to learn how to see through those deceptions, and you got to kill them. Okay. But you can't just do that. You've also got to save that part that's hurting. And that means you got to understand what that deeper desire is and start working to solve it. Okay. Maybe it's something like, I'm just really stressed, or maybe I feel insecure, or maybe I'm just way too tired. Maybe I don't have any fun. Maybe I'm super freaking lonely, or, maybe I'm, horny. Maybe I want a sexual partner. Like there's all different things that could come up. And sometimes, a bad habit will be servicing a bunch of different desires. And that's when it gets a little, more complicated, when you realize, oh, I'm using porn, for example, to solve like 10 different problems in my life. Well, yeah, if you want to quit porn, you got to start solving all of those things. And that can be overwhelming at first, but the reality is you don't need to actually finish solving them. You just need to start moving directionally toward a better way of life, right? Just directionally toward, because your emotions are surprisingly understanding, right? They know you because your emotions are you. And if they see that you're genuinely caring about them, they see that you're actually trying to solve the problems, even if, you might have to wait, or you're just doing it step by step, they feel the love. And when they feel the love, they don't feel like they need to be, going over to the terrorist, right? They don't need to strap a bomb to their chest in order to get your attention anymore. They feel heard, okay? And typically this is enough to actually leave the bad habit behind. And then as you keep making progress on those deeper desires, it makes it so that you never want to escape to begin with. You're actually so plugged into a life that you want to be present in that you just feel good, right? There's no reason to just unplug and numb yourself out anymore. And I get it. This can be kind of a humbling process, right? It can be almost like embarrassing to see how needy little parts inside of you are. It's almost like they're all, you got like an inner child, people call it like that. And it seems like, I'm a man, I'm not a child. But like all of us have parts inside of us that never really grew up, right? There are parts inside of us that weren't given an appropriate amount of love during our upbringing. And because of that, they still are inside of us, but they're in an immature state. And it's like you almost need to parent those parts in a way that they weren't parented. I was watching an interview between Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan the other day. It's like one of their newer ones. And Joe Rogan was talking about how he basically just views all adults as babies that have just lived longer. And he said that when he started looking at people like this, it gave him a lot more compassion toward people. It made him much less judgmental, right? And, obviously he realizes that he's the same thing. And that's the truth. We all have these parts inside of us that haven't really grown up. They're kind of immature. And if we just judge ourselves and hate ourselves for having these elements, well, then we're never going to be able to properly care for them. And in fact, we're probably going to make things worse. Like, I take my daughter, she's 6 years old. And if I want her to do something and she's like, dragging her feet or, arguing with me about it, if I just start yelling at her, for being immature, essentially, it's just going to make things worse. She's going to break down. She's going to cry. It's going to be this whole big thing to like get stuff like actually moving right. Okay. Because by me just trying to force through her resistance, it's going to make her even more resistant. But instead, what do I got to do? I got to slow down, got to try and meet her where she's at, try and connect with her, and, a certain balance of stern truth and loving compassion. And guess what? Yeah, it feels like I'm slowing down, but that's actually the fastest way and the healthiest way to get her to bed or to get her to brush her teeth or whatever it is. And that same sort of thing has to go with us. It's like when you start encountering, habit change on this level, it's going to feel like it's slowing you down. It's going to feel like it's taking all of this energy, that there's, oh my gosh, this part inside of me won't shut up. But actually, this is the fastest way to your goals, because if you keep neglecting this part of yourself, then it's going to keep sabotaging you. Okay. Your mind will stay split. You will never be aligned. And until you can get yourself loving yourself properly, then, you're going to be operating at only a fraction of your true potential. So yeah, sometimes you got to get a little humble. Sometimes you got to slow down a little bit. Sometimes you got to, realize like, crap, I'm not as together as I would like to be, but I could be. I just got to meet myself where I'm at and give myself what I actually need. Now, if you feel like you don't really know where you should start showing yourself that love, well, chances are you've got some blind spots, and I would love to help you with that. All you got to do is click the link in the description here, and you can take the free quiz that we put together for you. And in this quiz, we'll show you where your big bottleneck is, where you're leaking energy and are likely, heavily out of alignment. So it only takes a couple minutes to do it. Just click the link below and get your Frontline Man score. That's what I have for you guys today. Hope you check out the quiz, and I hope you found this useful. I'll see you guys in the next one. Ooh, yeah.